Welcome to Apples to Octopuses, the show where we take two completely random things and compare them against each other to figure out which one is objectively better. And for today's episode, we are comparing Tom Cruise against Master of Puppets by Metallica. Which is better? Well, there's an answer, and today I'm gonna find out what it is. First, let's start with the most simple and basic gauge of betterness. Which of these items has made more money? Alright, so a quick Google search will tell you that Tom Cruise is currently worth $570 million, one of the highest paid actors of all time. Now, let's compare this to the record sales of Master of Puppets. So apparently, Metallica has sold over 6 million copies of this album by the year 2009. Now, more recent tabulations of this are a little harder to find, and I'm way too lazy to do any further research, so let's just say it reached about 7 million sales by 2020. Now, the problem is that still doesn't really tell you how much money the album has made, since record stores can adjust their prices as they see fit. Thanks, capitalism. So fuck it, let's just say each album sold for $20. That's being pretty generous, and it would mean that Master of Puppets has raked in around $140 million since its release back in 1986 or 87 or whatever. So, Tom Cruise wins this round with his massive $570 million net worth. The next category of comparison is the fans. Which ones are less shitty? Now, Master of Puppets fans tend to be metalheads, from Generation X or the Millennials. These people are usually pretty insufferable on the internet, and they think they're superior to folks who enjoy mainstream radio. But generally, they have a strong sense of camaraderie and pretty good hearts. Tom Cruise fans, however, are always middle-aged white women, and Mark, the bass player for my band, we're called the Galacticas. Check us out on Spotify. These people are the main cause of most of the world's problems, so I'm gonna give this point to Master of Puppets. Now, let's compare which of these items is less likely to negatively impact you on a day-to-day basis. Tom Cruise was and still is an A-list actor, and that means we gotta hear about him a lot. While he might not be in the news much anymore, he's still at that point where if he voices his opinion of climate change, I'm gonna have trouble avoiding it. Master of Puppets, on the other hand, is regarded as one of the greatest records of all time, but you'll almost never hear any of its songs played on the mainstream radio. You pretty much have to go out of your way to hear it. The most annoying thing about this album is when you're at a karaoke bar and then there's some dude who wants to look like a badass, so he goes up on stage to sing the title song, forgetting that the track is like 6 minutes of guitar solos, so then he just has to stand there awkwardly while everyone is sipping their drinks. But you know, that's just karaoke for you, so I'm gonna give this point to Master of Puppets. Now at this point, you might be thinking that I've got a bias towards Master of Puppets since I just told you I play in a band, but also, please consider to go fuck yourself and make your own YouTube video. The next order of business is which of these items is more attractive. Even though Tom Cruise is in his late 80s, he still doesn't look a day over 57, and 100 Million Suburban Housewives cannot be wrong, this guy is still pretty hot. Now, while the band Metallica has always been a bunch of fugly dudes even in their prime, and then there was that bus crash that probably didn't do him any favors, the album Master of Puppets is, actually pretty decent looking. However, it's nothing to write home about. The cover artwork is pretty generic and uninspired when compared to a band like Iron Maiden. And just look at my copy here, the disc itself is bland as can be. I also think I bought this at a pawn shop, so the case is all scratched and broken, so I'm gonna give this point to Tom Cruise. Finally, let's cover their overall likability in our modern society. Tom Cruise has become the Nickelback of actors. He's one of those guys who was kinda cool when he started off, but he got overexposed, and despite still being in tons of successful stuff, you'd be hard-pressed to find anybody who openly admits they like him. Anybody cool anyway. While Metallica may have tarnished their reputation over the decades, they never really reached full-on Nickelback status, and almost all metal fans, no matter how insufferable, will still admit that Master of Puppets is a masterpiece, despite the band's douchey reputation. You'll never find anybody saying this is a shitty album. Except for Mark, so it looks like it's safe to say Master of Puppets is truly better than Tom Cruise. Now I should probably tally up the score just to be sure, but math is for losers, and I'm gonna go have sex right now. Next time on Apples to Octopuses, we're gonna be comparing Star Wars Episode 3 against Mozart. See you then!